where we got into this period of rapid evolution in economic conditions that led us to be less sure about the quality of the model we were working with, and so we were hoping to have additional quantitative perspectives, help inform whether we should interpret that model strictly or should be, considering other things. We've even, the tax department even hired the UCLA forecasting project to build another model for them. So we're in a process of kind of kicking the tires, so to speak, of these models we're working with.
Yeah, these models, and when Paul says models, we're really talking about equations that have been statistically derived. These equations have been around for 25 years.
Well, the state, well,
or
not
so.
that long. The state went through and updated their model 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
So it's a better version than the old one.
But they've been around for quite a while, and they need to be recalibrated.
Yes,
and we need to go back. And not only that, we also need to ask fundamental questions about whether or not this methodology that relies on basic what we call causal factors. We do a visitor forecast that we give to the tax department. The tax department takes that visitor forecast, puts it into the equation, and crunches out the numbers for the tax revenues. Is that kind of causal model really appropriate, or should we use something else? And that's what the tax department and the Council on Revenues
How do we compare
are
to other states, or the UN, or the UCLAs, or
Well,
the
I'll give you an
I
example.
mean, do we have a Model T, a Edsel, or we got we have a Volvo, we got a Infiniti, or
well, it depends
Lexus,
what your Volvo you want.
Yeah.
I mean, reliability. When you say we have a council revenue model that does this and that, it's comparable to.
In the first place, we don't have a model, and I'm not sure anybody has a model that's capable of anticipating these
swine flus
improbable high loss events, such as the one that unfolded after the crisis.
After Lehman and the consumer spending decline.
I don't have a model that can predict the next hurricane. Yeah. I'm sorry, it just not going to happen.
The economists aren't that much magicians.
No. But one of the reassuring things in this consulting project that the tax department entered into with UCLA is that UCLA looked at our processes and they looked at our models and they said, and they sat in on our meetings and they said, hey, you guys are doing pretty much what we expected people to do. And so, it's not like they're coming in and saying that we've got a Model T and everybody else is running a Ferrari over there. That's not at all the situation.
I know as a member of the Finance Committee, what you guys have come in with has pretty much meshed with the members of that committee, have thought, felt, otherwise kind of sensed what was going on. So there hasn't been a disconnect. So I don't say it as criticism. I just want to know, in the comparative world of economic forecasting, are we kind of up with the best? And it sounds like we're
I was going to mention, I've seen what California does. California gets the best guys from Berkeley and Stanford and UCLA or USC, and they all get in and they make these really exotic models, and it's kind of cool as an economist to see what they're doing. Are they any more accurate? I'm not sure they're getting their money's worth. Of course, we're working for free.
So you're getting a lot of value.
You guys don't even get per diem.
No, we don't get per diem. Sometimes we get parking paid for, but
I'm just
that's more trouble than
I should have offered you at least water.
No, that's
for
not
this
important.
Occasion.
But I think we, for the resources we have, I think we do pretty well. And I think the real issue is forecasting accuracy, and that's been a real challenge.
If there's any Act 221 advocates out there watching, they would ask this question. Act 221 is, the high tax, or the high tech income tax, or the tax credit.
Tax credit.
They have said, and I agree with them, that the model that the state used to project the income and the tax revenues and the jobs created was so static, it didn't have any dynamism in it whatsoever, and it underestimated from the state versus what they had put almost by 50%, because there was a different thing. Is your model
underestimated what?
Like 50% of the jobs that were created?
They understated the economic impact, the positive economic impact.
Exactly, understated it to the point where, is there something in your model that, the Act 221 people are trying to get their act together to show that is done more? Or is it so sophisticated it's not something that guys in...
Well, nobody's seen their model, and it's a little self-serving to say that they're more important than everybody thinks they are. I think from a revenue standpoint, we've taken into account what we could calibrate it to the actual experience of tax credits as they were recorded, and those data come to us with a lag. and then we've taken what we know about the likely path of utilization of the credits to forecast, the path of the subsidies or the tax credits going out into the future. So they peak right about now, as it turns out, because of commitments that were made many years ago. But in terms of the economic impacts to which I think you're referring,
yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're that far off. We don't have a what's called dynamic scoring in the literature. We don't have a model that's basically growth oriented. Carl's model is a vector autoregressive or vector error correction model that does have dynamics inherent in the specification of the model, but we don't have a structural model that has what's called whatever I just called it a second ago, growth accounting or dynamic scoring or something like that. What I've seen as a rule of thumb is, and this is from the California model, that you get the number's about 0.2. So if you you get about 20% of what you think is going to be the revenue impact from dynamic consequences. So it's an order of smallness that if you miss it, you're probably not that far off. But again, we've calibrated our estimate of the impact of the credits to the historical experience, which we do have, and we've calibrated, the rest of the model, the revenue forecast and the economic model, to a condition in which not only the technology industry is making investments, but everybody else is making investments, and by the way, making way larger investments. So again, the question of relative magnitude is important, and I think the question of sort of dynamic consequences remains an open one.
Where I tell you where it does affect us is that up to about a year ago, we were sitting around the table looking at the revenue forecast, and we were asking ourselves the question a lot and asking the tax department to provide information about what the impact of the credits, what the magnitude of the credits were, because we were worried that that a lot of money would seep out through the credits, and that we would actually be over forecasting because of the credits. And it was difficult for us to get any information about what the impact of the credits would be at that time. And so it created a forecasting challenge for us.
Yeah, the 2005 to 2007 Tax Review Commission did take a look at this and tried to get a handle on it, and there wasn't enough data at that time to really calibrate.
And your forecasts are only as good as your assumptions. Your assumptions are only as good as what you build your model on, and it's like a continual set of dominoes depending on how you structure them. I know I ventured off kind of outside of the area talking about economic diversification, but when you guys give your briefing to the legislature, for sure you're going to get the questions, and I know it came up just the last time. Well, what should we do? Should we give more tax credit? Should we have more stringent this? Should we do more lending?
Yeah.
Many of my colleagues look to you guys for specific implementation of what otherwise is information that doesn't necessarily lend itself to a policy decision, but it's that frustration that many of my colleagues have saying, okay, so what? Here's the data, so what? Give us the interpretation. And you guys say, well, look, that's not really...
Fair enough. Let me give my answer, and I want Jack to give his answer, because I think here again, there's an appropriate forum for that, and I think we would both love to be a participant in that forum. It's a different one from the one where we're representing the council's collective forecast, and that's as the chair, or when I'm not available, when Jack as vice chair is testifying. That's what we're trying to do. We're wearing this collective hat. But Gene, anytime you guys want to have a conversation about tax policy, I would love to come down and be a part of that conversation.